Hey everyone, welcome to the Smart Economy podcast. I am super psyched to introduce our guest today. We're chatting with Fig from Squid. How you doing, Fig?
Hey, Dylan. Thanks for having me. Doing really well.
Yeah, I've been having a lot of fun listening to your previous podcasts and looking at your previous presentations. So I kind of want to, hopefully this is a softball, kind of start off the conversation with how does cross-chain infrastructure ultimately increase the resiliency of the blockchain space?
Wow. Big question to start with. So resiliency, I think of as decentralization is the core of what makes blockchains resilient. And in a lot of ways, multi-chain can be thought of as a decentralization of the decentralization that we already have. Like each blockchain is a decentralized network of nodes. They're all communicating with each other to keep a ledger of accounts. And that's happening on Ethereum, it's happening on Bitcoin, it's happening on Neo, it's happening on something else. And with multi-chain, what it means is that we can connect all of these separate decentralized sets of nodes. So if that one of them goes down, then another one can take the slack. There's different schools of thought where maybe we should have all of the decentralization in one place and just, because if you say you have 10,000 possible nodes in the world, if you have one blockchain, then that's maximally decentralized. You've got 10,000 different nodes on that one chain. If you've got 100 chains, suddenly you have 100 chains of 100 nodes, and each one is much weaker, ostensibly. And then multi-chain is bad for robustness of crypto generally. But I tend to take a different view where we already have some very robust blockchains, Bitcoin and Ethereum. They could still improve, of course. But with economic stake and proof of stake, robustness isn't just from number of nodes. So we can, multi-chain it allows us to scale, bring better user experience, and make blockchains more secure as well.
Yeah, I love that answer. I'm a huge proponent of the multi-chain thesis myself. I've been, we were just talking beforehand, I've been working in an Alt1 ecosystem since 2018. So I've kind of been along this line of thought for a long time. And this is why I was so excited to chat with you, because what Squid is building is really what I think is sort of the next step is how do we connect these different chains in a seamless, super sleek UI and provide a great user experience. So that was kind of fun to kick off the conversation with that high level philosophical question. Now I want to come kind of zoom in to you because you also have a really cool story. You were studying medicine and now you are not. You're working in the blockchain space. The only other person who has a similar trajectory as you actually went through his whole medical studies and did a year in residency and then unplugged and realized that wasn't for him. So kudos to you for kind of pulling the ripcord sooner than later. So I just kind of want to hear from you. What's your background? How did you get interested in medicine? And then what kind of took off the rose-colored glasses, and then how did you stumble into tech?
Yeah, sure. Medicine it seemed like a perfect job coming out of high school because you get to deal with really complex systems. You're helping people. You're working with people every day. Theoretically, it has a lot of breadth in it. You can be someone who never talks to anyone but just cuts people out as a surgeon, or you can be a psychologist and just literally just talk to people and understand their minds, not even look at a sick person in terms of coughing and spluttering. And I really enjoyed studying it. Learning about the body you get to learn about these systems, which, the body's never fixed per se. You can be healthy, but really there's no good sense of what's the perfect state. And later down the track, I found, finance was really similar to that because you have these markets where everything's settling, or even blockchains, everything's settling down onto this one layer, this single substrate, which it's just, in this case, it's in numbers and information rather than in the body. And so you have sort of the world and lots of businesses being reflected in this thing, and it can never be perfect. It's like it's just being directed in, you know, in one way or another in equilibrium. But anyway, what I didn't find best about medicine was the ability to be creative and innovative, because for good reason, there's really good, like, strong regulations in medicine, and you only get a good opportunity to be creative quite late in your career when you're really senior and gone through 15, 20 years of study and training. And by that time, maybe you've lost the will to, I don't know, to try stuff that's new. So anyway, I left that and I went to New York and started sleeping on couches, and I was a musician over there. I got to really be creative and learned to code. And I was a UX engineer and designer while I was in New York, and used that to pay my way. And then got interested in finance because of all of the finance people in New York. Some of my friends were doing it. So I got a job in TradFi. But at that time, was getting interested in crypto and saw how the inefficiencies of some of the things I was doing in my day job could be automated through these trustless systems, like public infrastructure for trustless finance, and got really excited about that. Crypto is like the perfect combination of, you know, the complex systems, the creativity, the, you know, freedom to go and make something, and it's very merit based as well. It doesn't feel bureaucratic. You know, you just go and, like, anyone can go and make something. If it's good, they get, you know, recognized for it, get to work with smart people. So that's why I'm here.
That's awesome. What were you doing as a musician? Were you like busking, or were you playing in different bands? What instrument did you play?
Yeah, in different bands. I had one main project, and then I was a, you know, session musician touring around the place. Play sax and bass, guitar, drums, piano, bit of everything, and a lot of sampling as well. Really love using computers to, like, make new sounds and take previous sounds and reshape them, which is, I think, part of how I got into the open source sort of mentality that crypto has as well. You can take something that's already been made, like, iterate on it in completely permissionless way in music. And there's all these, you know, I kind of resented the copyright laws, and it's some of also there's a lot of feigned authenticity in music where someone might just be, you know, copying an artist from the 70s, but it's meant to be authentic music. And it was all, I don't know, I just really like to, in crypto, there's no sense of that. Just if you, like, improve on something, it's better, like, simple kind of thing.
Yeah, it's almost like you can kind of prove your authenticity because there's this whole repository of open source code that people can dig through. And it's one of the things I love about crypto too. You can smell the charlatans really quickly because this is one of the first times in human history that most of the knowledge of the space is available in open source software. So if you're full of it, you'll get called out pretty quickly because everybody has access to the same knowledge base.
Yeah, exactly. And, like, you still give credit. Like, if something I make gets improved on, and it's the highest of compliments, to be honest. If someone can be bothered to, like, interact with something I've made, it's amazing. And same thing with music. If you make a song and someone goes and, like, covers it or samples it, that's the ultimate compliment. So yeah, I'm all about this kind of this, like, iterative process. I really like it.
Yeah, I can see why you loved medicine. So what was, you kind of touched on it earlier, talking about your friends who, when you were surfing couches, kind of making your way as a developer, and also hanging out with friends who are in the financial space, maybe fintech space. I'm kind of curious to hear, what was the first time you heard about Bitcoin, or maybe it was Ethereum because you're such a biddler? What was kind of like your first moments of learning about crypto? And maybe what was your genesis moment? Was there a moment when you were on a couch and you were like, I need to go into the space because of this code or something like that?
Well, the very first time I touched crypto was through music, actually. Through, you know, this sampling, this open source thing I was talking about, goes back to the torrenting world, the peer-to-peer world, which was also, blockchains came out of peer-to-peer networks. And I used to run torrenting servers and things back in the day. I was part of a music community online. It was called What CD. Really amazing community. And part of the donation process for that public community was using Bitcoin. It's like way back. Got some Bitcoin and unfortunately lost that wallet, but I donated to the cause, and I'm sure someone else used that Bitcoin well. But the genesis moment was really because my friends in New York, they're high frequency traders. They trade using bots and computers like extremely fast. It's a hostile environment where computers are like fighting against each other on the order book. And when I heard that DeFi was happening, where people were making orders and trading in this public infrastructure, that sounded insane to me, because so much of that game that these guys play in high frequency trading is trying to understand what the other player is doing, or trying to like find some secret information which isn't available to other people. Once you have that secret information, you can make a lot of money out of it. And this idea that everyone's suddenly trading in a public place, and all of everyone's strategies could be reverse engineered, a lot more information is public. That seemed like really fun, but game changing as well. And that was before. It's now been sort of termed MEV and since then. And maybe I should have, instead of doing cross chain, just built MEV bots back in before. But that's turned out. So
yeah, I think the MEV intern is appreciative that he doesn't have much competition. What kind of time frame was this? Was this like 2020, 2018?
Yeah, it was early 2020.
Cool.
Similar.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So you kind of touched upon the thing that interested you about crypto, but you didn't really go into this HFT MEV sort of world. It seems like you're not so much of it's not necessarily a competitor, but you're not necessarily like a 1v1 type mentality, like kind of all boats rise together. And so being an open source aficionado, sourcing music, running the P2P music site. Also, side note, whenever I'm giving a presentation on like what crypto is and what blockchain is, my kind of first time I ever felt like I was empowered on the internet was when I downloaded an Eminem album off of Napster because my parents didn't want me to listen to his music. And the power the empowerment I felt from a peer-to-peer network and being able to access this thing I wanted that authority figures told me I could not have access to, that was super powerful. So when you said that you were doing a torrenting site, that just like brings back like a wave of positive emotions. And it's also the thing I use when I'm telling like a quote unquote normie about what crypto is, which is basically like, it's a ledger, but for money, just like Napster kind of enabled you to seed all these different songs off of an album. So I love that. So then like, where did the idea for Squid come across? Were you working on other projects before you landed with your team now, which is quite robust? A team of 9, I believe, with 8 developers, which is rad. So how did you kind of start working in the blockchain space? And was it with Squid right off the bat?
Okay, so quit the job in traditional finance. And the first thing I did was go out and try and meet experts in the different consensus, architectures or methods. And it became clear that with all these different blockchains developing, and also the scaling issues that we were seeing with Ethereum mainnet. So like end of 2020, we had DeFi summer. Mm-hmm. Everything suddenly was super, super expensive. It was $100 to do anything on chain. It became super apparent we're going to need rollups, we're going to need app chains. And so I spent a lot of time meeting the people building or like designing these interoperability protocols and like trying to understand which one was the most secure. And that was really fun. And the ones that stood out the most to me, like the most impressive, were the founders of Axelar network, which is a protocol that that Squid is built on top of. And Axelar is a blockchain that connects blockchains. The team come from the MIT and they're blockchain professors, but they've also built real products. I think some of the founders of Algram started it as well. So we ended up focusing on Axelar. And through that time, I was meeting some friends, and we were working together, and they became my co-founders. And it just happened really naturally. Started building this multi-chain app on Axelar. I was trying to solve this issue of user experience. So you have all these chains, and back in early 2021, even through and until Squid started, I guess, through 2021, it would be 30 clicks potentially to get your money from Ethereum to Avalanche. You have to go to all these new websites, and you don't know if any of them are going to be a scam. And it was just it was obviously terrible user experience, never going to get adopted. So we wanted to reduce that down to one click, and I can go into it more, but that's how I got to cross-chain. It was really through the need for user experience and an interest in these cross-chain consensus models.
I have a feeling like you might have already answered this, but I just want to ask anyways, who's your end user? Who are you building for? Are you building for your HFT friends and their corporate conglomerates? Or are you building for the everyday, crypto minnow?
I mean, it's a good question. Who is any of us building for in the bear market?
I didn't mean to take us to a philosophical arena, but
we're building for end users. Really, that's the goal, to make user experience for real people better to use blockchains. Because you should be able to anyone should be able to set up a wallet. Anyone should be able to interact with an application, no matter where it is. And then the nice thing about what we do is we're connecting people with applications. So we're also building for the application developers. A lot of our success has been because a developer of an application on a new chain needs to get users, and they don't want to just be able to get the users on their current chain. They want to be able to access the total addressable market of crypto. Mm-hmm. And ideally beyond that as well. So we're developing for users primarily, but improving user experience. But then we've got developer tools which can be easily implemented into an app. Traders actually do use us. We get a fair bit of use through direct trading, bots using our software. But that's for now more of a side effect. We haven't focused on them specifically, and we're doing some things to change that. But for now, would I?
Yeah, you mentioned in the kind of intro question that you can have one blockchain with 1,000 or 10,000 nodes on it, or you can have hundreds of blockchains with 1,000 nodes on it. So you kind of highlighted this wicked problem. And in my previous career, I was an urban planner, and a wicked problem is every time you create a solution, two new problems arise. So I'm imagining that this is an issue you run into with building for multi-chain. So I guess I want to ask a super simple question that might have a really complex answer. Why is multi-chain UX so difficult?
Let's think of a simple one. I mean, you travel from the UK to China, and you arrive in China and everything's written in Chinese characters. You don't know how to use anything. It's the same thing in crypto, except think of China is using planes, and America's using helicopters, and someone else has invented a different method of transport. Everything's different. And what our job is at Squid is just to take all of that complexity and try and abstract it all the way back into one click for the user. Mm. So no matter what you're doing, the user has no idea that you've gone to a new chain even. That's the end goal we want to get to. You're just on a website, just like you would be on Web 2, and you select the product you want to buy, whether it's, financial product or an NFT or maybe crypto. You can pay for just, your clothes one day, and they shouldn't have to think about any of the technology underneath. And shouldn't, if they go to a new country, they should be able to read Chinese, that kind of, that's
Yeah, I love that. And ultimately, I think we're entering a world when we have these AR, VR glasses. Maybe we'll be able to have auto translation when we arrive in a new country, and we can read in that language or read in those characters. So that's a really cool metaphor, actually. I really appreciate that. You started building Squid, I'm just going to guess, in late 2021, and you guys launched this year. So can you share just some basic stats on how long you've been building Squid, and maybe give yourself a little moment to shill the transaction volume you guys have been able to accommodate?
Thanks. Yeah, so we started building Squid proper in May 22. Then I think we took about 8 months to launch. Launched in end of January this year. And the chart is amazing. It's like, currently it's still fairly exponential looking. It's, started very small. We're getting like 50 transactions a day for about a month or so. It's kind of, we've done about, not done, I think actually as of yesterday, $420 million of volume. And we're doing, I think $3 or $4 million a day at the moment with cross-chain volume generally.
Are you guys doing any major marketing pushes, or are you collaborating specifically with core teams on these different ecosystems? You guys are doubling down on EVM chains and the Cosmos ecosystem right now. So maybe your relationships are kind of tight with those communities. What does that sort of outreach look like?
We're partnering with, whenever we enter a new ecosystem, we try to partner with as many as we can and bring users from everywhere else that we support into that ecosystem. And so we focused on, we've got, I think, 14 EVM chains, which is Ethereum and most of its rollups. We have, Arbitrum, Polygon, Polkadot. We've got Moonbeam, expanding that as well. And then we just launched the Cosmos. And the Cosmos is 60 other chains, I think, that we just added support for, something like that. And very multi-chain centric ecosystem. So that was, I'm good friends with a lot of people in that ecosystem. But the plan is to, continue expanding. We've got Bitcoin coming very soon. Super excited about this. Native Bitcoin to native Ethereum or anything else. Similarly, you'll be able to just send a Bitcoin transaction and pay for an NFT on Arbitrum, something like that. Which, I'm super excited for. Yeah, we'll be adding all of the more edge chains, the classic ones like Dogecoin and Litecoin and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
But generally, it's been really exciting just partnering with all the dexes on all of these chains, because the way Squid works, we don't hold any of our own liquidity. We just connect all of the different sources of liquidity across crypto. So we're partnered with, I don't know if it's 100 now, but it's a lot of dexes where we go to them and we're like, we can route all this cross-chain volume through your dex. And it's a win-win for us, for them and for us, because we get access to that liquidity.
Mm-hmm.
They get more volume from our users who are trying to get into their chain from elsewhere. That's a really good one. Wallets are a great example. We went live with MetaMask and Trust Wallet as well. Two amazing teams, really great wallets. And we're really excited to now be expanding to NFTs. So being able to buy an NFT with any token on any chain is, I think we're getting close to that end state, which I was trying to talk about, where you don't know what chain you're on or the application is on. You just go to the site and you click buy, and you can select from any of the tokens in your wallet, whether they're on Solana or Ethereum or Cosmos, and in one click buy the NFT. So excited to be working with like creators and NFT projects.
Yeah, it kind of comes full circle to the kind of creative elements that sort of drew you, or you drew inspiration from earlier in your career and still to this day. There's a lot in there that you said that I want to unpack. So you mentioned that native L1 to L1 Bitcoin to Ethereum, for example. Are you guys like leveraging Thorchain on the back end, or is there some sort of new kind of team you're going to be working with? Cool. Okay. That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, I've been following Thorchain for years, and it was a really difficult problem to solve, like L1 to L1, Bitcoin to Ethereum. So I guess now that you're working with CoinFlip, are we at an inflection point where the base kind of technology has been provided for these like L1 to L1, I guess for better terms, atomic swaps are possible? Because for a while there, it just seemed like it was the one team that was working on it, but you guys are now working with CoinFlip. Are there other competitors to Thorchain and CoinFlip that are starting to arise now? Are we at that point in cross-chain communication?
No, I don't think it's commoditized yet. I've been thinking about this a lot actually, because in a sense, we're an aggregator. You can think of Squid as, we aggregate dexes, we aggregate liquidity, and there's a few cross-chain dexes popping up, but Bitcoin is a really hard one to do. So I think ChainFlip and Thorchain are going to probably still be the main ones for a while. I think the reason is that it's just so much more complex you can't go on in the same way that Uniswap is forkable. We've had thousands of Uniswap forks at this point. Anyone and just a 13-year-old can go into play Uniswap now and like start a project. But doing cross-chain swaps between Bitcoin and other Ethereum is not ever going to be easy, I think, and not going to be copy paste. So yeah, it's an interesting space. I don't know how. I'm not sure if we'll see like a huge end state with thousands of different cross-chain dexes. It may just be a few, because there's no need for thousands of them, and it's quite hard to do.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And apologies to the ChainFlip team. I think I just called you guys CoinFlip. Didn't mean to. First time I've heard of you. So, and then another thing that you were talking about earlier is you're providing this router for various different dexes on multiple chains. And I haven't quite seen this in the research I've done. There's no Squid token or anything like that. You guys are just providing an actual service, correct?
Yeah, and providing just services, no Ponzi yet. Yeah, we've just been focused like entirely on the product for now. Yeah, we haven't decided whether we'll have a token. We haven't confirmed anything. We're just focusing on getting a good user experience. It's been really nice, to be honest, to focus on just on the technology, and we'll see where we go. I think a token could be interesting for Squid. There's different ways of having utility for a token in like a cross-chain world. It's like a pretty interesting design space, but early days, I think.
I've been doing the Smart Economy pod for a little over a year now, and we are protocol agnostic. So I've had the opportunity to chat with a bunch of awesome guests. Also, by the way, you're episode number 50, which is really cool. Yeah, so super nice milestone. But I don't know if it's just like the doldrums of the bear market or the types of conversations I've been having, but I've been kind of having this come to Jesus moment where I'm realizing a lot of tokens, and I've been in this space for 6 years, so this is kind of like hard to say out loud, it feels like a lot of tokens are indeed just, we say tongue in cheek Ponzi-nomics, but like, where does the actual value accrue to these things? Because the conversations I'm having with these large scale businesses that are rubbing elbows with like financial institutions and governments is it sounds like these open source, decentralized peer to peer networks remove intermediaries, they get rid of third parties. So from what I've been seeing is it's the business that is able to save on costs, but I haven't really been able to identify how that value abstracts to the actual token on that network. And so with Squid, it sounds like, if you have this cross-chain, multi-chain token that lives on different networks, and a lot of people are indeed using this routing service, that maybe you can have like an actual objective, factual, here's the reason why this token costs X. So it's kind of, I think that like what you're working on could potentially end up in that realm. But maybe I'm just jaded after 6 years and seeing every project fail twice over, that maybe I'm just like, it's the technology that's valuable, not the token. So
Yeah, I oscillate between these tokens are just memes and this, and I'm like all about the technology. But I think Squid is in a really lucky position because we do have a lot of users and we're providing a fairly difficult service to provide. So there is a business there, like the same, you can't fork Squid. It's very hard to do. So we have a business model where we can have a token as part of that, business model, or part of at least the mechanism of the thing. And I'm interested too. Let's see how the next phase of tokens sort of turns out.
Yeah, so something that's really I'm trying to wrap my head around is Squid a DEX aggregator? Is it a bridge? Is it a hybrid? Is it bigger than just those two concepts?
It's I think it is a bit bigger. Yeah, it is a DEX aggregator. We have the same functionality as what 1inch has, for example, but we also will be using 1inch, and we use Kyber Swap. We're closely partnered with our aggregator. But I think of us more like Visa. Like Visa is a system for letting you pay in a lot of different places and in the cheapest way possible. And maybe Visa's big enough now that they do have their own liquidity, but as far as for this metaphor at least, they outsource the swapping of currencies if you're going from euros to US dollars. So I think of us as a little bit like that. We've got the DAX aggregator there, but there's a lot of how we connect all of this liquidity up into really simple user experiences. And how can a shop owner, in Visa's case, get there? How can they can install payments into their application? That's just by buying, the physical thing, or they now install an app. But with Squid, we have these React components, these widgets, or an API, our API and SDK, which a developer can install to access all this liquidity or these nice payment flows. So I think that's the closest of where we are as Stripe and Visa.
Yeah, and so you guys do have like a super approachable widget. Like when I look at it for both V1 and V2, I get it. Choose a chain, choose a token, swap. What are sort of the key value adds that Squid offers for things like security, speed, reliability? And maybe this is also a nice opportunity to segue into Boost, and you can share a little bit about that.
I'll start with security, then go into speed. So security has been one of our most, as part of why we've been so successful, I think, because we were building and coming out of this world where there were, I think, $2.5 billion of bridge hacks, which is just insane, totally insane. And everyone is rightfully really scared of cross-chain and building, partnering with a cross-chain provider. But that's where all that, my interest in consensus and how we ended up partnering with Axelar like really paid off is because Axelar was by far the most secure cross-chain provider. And some of the things I think at this point they've had over 60 audits, which is so many more than everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
Got an entire blockchain verifying messages between when they go across chain, and we got a lot of really interesting things like rate limiting, where if there's a hack on one chain, we can isolate the damage that blows out to all the other chains we're connected to, because we have a really good system of hub and spoke system of managing rate limits. So you can isolate one spoke and the amount that flows through that into all the other chains. And we saw this play out a few months ago when multi-chain got hacked. Multi-chain is a bridge provider, and that was, their security model was always unknown, which is a really bad sign. It turned out that the CEO owned all the keys, I think. So someone got his password. I think it must have been, I don't know if it was the Chinese government or someone got his keys, and then multi-chain shut down. When multi-chain stopped, a lot of our competitors who had these point-to-point systems had to also shut down because they couldn't contain the damage from these multi-chain tokens that were suddenly, at risk, or you could get infinite amounts of them for free. So I think it's a really nice decentralization narrative where it's hard to tell a lot of the time, but then like something goes wrong and then all of the centralized solutions just sort of drop away and the decentralized one keeps going. So yeah, we've had a good experience because of that. Squid also, because of the way we're built, you go from a native token on one chain to a native token on another chain. So like ETH to native USDC instead of say ETH to wrapped, a bridge version of ETH on another chain.
Mm-hmm.
As we can do that with the swaps that we do, it means the user doesn't have to risk holding any bridged assets. It's just while the transfer is happening that they're at risk, which is a good time to go into speed, because if you're at risk during the transfer, that's, it would, going from Arbitrum to Ethereum, it would be 20 minutes, or going from Polygon, it would be 6 minutes. Still not very long. So it's unlikely that a bridge is going to get hacked during that time, very unlikely. But we've got this system called Boost, which we're really proud of, where we reduce the transactional time down to 20 seconds. And this works by, you have a provider on the destination chain who gives you funds as soon as they see that you've requested your bridge transaction. And then they register that against a contract. And when the bridge comes through 20 minutes later, they get paid back instead of you getting paid twice. So the only risk the user has is if the Boost provider just doesn't want to fulfill the transaction. And so the worst case is it takes 20 minutes for it to come across. The user's never at risk of losing funds because of this system. They're just at risk of waiting the normal time. But what it means is that we've gotten our transaction times in any chain now down to like, it's 10 seconds most of the time, up to 20, down to we've gotten below 1 second.
Nice.
Between chains. And yeah, that was super important for us because of the user experience. If you buy an NFT, you really don't know if you've won the NFT or bought it until it's in your wallet. Same if you do a swap. Even if you read all about our security model and understand that how secure everything is, you still want to see the money in your wallet. Like no one, even in, TradFi, I'm like, I don't know if I've lost my money until the TransferWise, the Wise transaction is completed. So getting that transaction time down was super important.
Yeah, I mean, even with like an ACH or anytime I'm doing a cross-chain transfer, those moments that I'm waiting is a source of stress, especially like the higher in value that the transfer is. So you mentioned a Boost provider. So are these individuals that opt to provide their liquidity so that this transaction can essentially act as like a credit, or if I'm understanding correctly, from one chain to the next? So who are these boost providers? Do you solicit them? Do they come to Squid? What sort of incentives do they receive for being a provider?
Yeah, so it is exactly that. It's a loan. It's a loan collateralized by a cross-chain transaction. It's very simple. Um, so there's a road to being able to make this decentralized, the boost providers. But we currently just have one provider, and that's the Axelar team are running it. Because of the security model, where the user's never at risk of losing funds, it's just if the provider disappears, then we need to find another provider. Then we've decided that it's not worth putting effort into making, opening up to other providers. And the other thing is that we're currently not charging anything, and Axelar isn't. So that it's the best for everyone at the moment. We have a really good product. Axelar are providing infrastructure and getting users as well, and that user gets free 20-second transactions basically. But the way it's built is very easy for us to, we could switch from Axelar to another provider. It's not locked in that way.
So you brought up kind of an elephant in the room when it comes to companies and projects. How do you guys fund yourselves? What's your source of revenue? Are you taking fees from each chain when you're doing a swap? Did you guys do a fundraise? Like, how are you guys making sure that you have food on the table and a roof over your head, or maybe giving a friend some spare money so you can sleep on their couch? How do you guys how are you able to keep the lights on?
Yeah, we're all still on couches. That's how we do it. We raise money. So we've raised from some VCs, which I think it was mid last year. It was all sort of self-funded. Just we were all hacking for a while, and then very lucky to raise after the Terra collapse. Even in the depths of, and I think it was after the FTX collapse as well. So
wow.
Very tight time.
Well done.
Yeah, thanks. But yeah, in terms of revenue, we don't charge anything yet. So Squid is free to use, and we're just living off, funding. But we have a roadmap to funding or to revenue, and that's through revenue sharing agreements that we have. So we have hundreds of partners at this point, and it's actually a really common problem in crypto that no one knows how to charge their users or like how to make any money. And the movement of money around is a really good place to take a small fee, doing a swap or doing transfer and a bridge, all these things that we do. So we're providing this as a service for others, and then they've actually asked can they charge a fee as part of this service. So we built in, whenever they charge a fee through Squid, we have the infrastructure to do that, and then we take a cut of what they have. So I think it's a similar model really to the Stripes and Visas of the world as well. When a merchant takes payment, then Visa or Stripe gets a small percentage of what happens, so of what the shop gets. So yeah, that's currently what we're doing.
It's kind of obvious why you guys chose Cosmos and EVM chains, because there's just 60 plus app chains in the Cosmos ecosystem. Like Ethereum is the OG, and all these L2s and rollups are building on top of it. But ultimately, like if we do subscribe to this multi-chain thesis, there's going to be a future where there's dozens of chains. Many of them might not even be EVM or IBC compatible. How do you guys examine which blockchain ecosystems to support next? Are you even at that point right now? Because you have a robust kind of selection between just those two sort of interoperability protocols and virtual machine protocols. So what's kind of like your checklist or the criteria that you and your team evaluate when looking at other ecosystems to integrate support for?
Yeah, we want to support everyone. That's the goal for sure. But the criteria and so taking a step back, Axelar is our main provider for all the cross-chain functionality that we have. And the model that we've taken is we have Axelar's network, and that's all the chains they can support. And as that grows, we'll fill that network, every chain that Axelar adds where they're on day one. And that roadmap will, I think, encompass most blockchains eventually. So the way Axelar's built, they're currently, they're an IBC native chain, but they'll be able to connect up to, for example, Polkadot.xem is something we're looking at as well. So all of the Polkadot parachains will be able to connect to. And then ZK Bridge is a really exciting field, which there's been some nice new tech coming out there. You can connect a ZK Bridge up to Axelar as well. And they're moving to a permissionless model so that can scale extremely quickly. That's called Axelar V2, and that will be, we don't have a hard date for that, but I've already seen demos of it. It's working, so it'll be soon, hopefully. And then on the Squid side, though, we can also integrate protocols in the edges. So we integrate an IBC, can integrate XCM, for example. CCTP, which is Circle's transfer protocol, we're integrating. So everywhere Circle supports, we'll be able to get your very high value USDC transfers. I personally, actually most of the team, we prefer the decentralized infrastructure. So we want to make sure we also have Axelar there, because if Circle goes down, we don't want our service to go down as well. Mm-hmm. But it's for transferring USDC, there's nothing better. It's one-to-one, no right. matter if you're $100 million or 50 cents. So we're integrating that. And then in terms of prioritization, though, it goes back to that question about who are we building for. And I think that's where the Axelar team are really good. They've kept us honest in terms of when you look at a new ecosystem, are there actually users there, and are there application developers building there? And you just need to, we do a lot of research talking to all the teams in a new ecosystem to see if they're going to be successful, or what we think of the community there. And we've generally just taken if an ecosystem has 50 projects building on it, it'll be prioritized if we want for just 10 projects building for.
That's really interesting that you bring that up. So you mentioned projects for an ecosystems activity. What does on-chain activity, what is the weight of that? So let's say an ecosystem's building 50 projects right now, but they're all in beta or alpha, or maybe not even there. And on-chain activity is less than 10K transactions a day. Does that kind of write off the ecosystem for you? Or what is the weight that on-chain activity has today versus the future it might have with all these projects building on that network?
No, it's a great question. Definitely the layer below that is within each project, how much volume, how many transactions per day, how many users are they going to have? And then we measure, all of them by some kind of prediction of that, or whatever's already happening. And it's really hard to predict, of course, because it's trying to time the market, who's going to be the most successful ecosystem. It's impossible, but we've got a lot of great investors and friends in the space, so we just try the best we can.
Something that kind of really rings true for me when I was looking into Squid is that and I love surfing different blockchains. I love testing out new technologies. I love seeing how the wallets work. I love seeing how fast transactions are, if it's a pain in the ass or not. Something that's really cool about Squid is that you guys are making it possible for users to transact on different chains without necessarily acquiring that token to pay for gas fees. So can you talk a little bit more about how Squid is preemptively purchasing gas or paying for users' cross-chain gas fees natively, so that me as the end user, I don't have to worry about that?
Yeah, it's a really, really cool UX issue that we're solving, I think, is you finally get your USDC across to Avalanche, but you don't have any AVAX. So you have to go back and you have to work out, how do I bridge AVAX? How do I buy AVAX on Ethereum, then bridge it? Or do I have to, there's often very arcane ways of getting gas. And what we do currently is you select a button on the swap or bridge, or purchase widget, and we swap some of the bridged amount to gas. It's usually like $1 or $2, and the rest goes into your swap or your purchase. So it's all done by decentralized means. You get gas when you arrive. You don't have to think about it. I think that's as good as it's like industry best at the moment. But what we're moving to, and is probably a gasless world where there'll be, instead of needing gas in every chain through a service like Squid, you'll be able to execute transactions on any chain without gas. And that's limited to the chains which can support this. Like you probably couldn't do it on Bitcoin very easily without going centralized, or maybe you can, I haven't looked at it. But on the EVM chains, we've got that already. Actually, we're building it. And I think that's a much better user experience. You never have to think about it. You just always submit. And jungle.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's a really cool feature. It's an afterthought almost every time when I'm moving from chain to chain, and it becomes a new source of frustration, especially if I maxed out my transfer and then I need to figure out another source of assets to pay for gas.
Yeah. It's a lot of pain. I try to collect all the really painful points. I had one actually in Turkey. I am in Turkey for a conference, and I had a moment in the taxi where I didn't have any reception, and I didn't know how much Turkish lira were compared to USD. So I didn't know if the meter was going up I trusted the meter, but I just thought that you want to be able to be absolutely sure that your payment is just what you think. So I think that's something that crypto could help with. But yeah, good to hear that gas one is a real pain point for you too.
Yeah. So kind of wrapping up, I want to look towards next steps. You have mentioned cross-chain NFT purchases. Like, how cool. I can pay for an NFT that lives on Avalanche with Ethereum or Matic or something else like that. So that's really interesting. What are some other and you also mentioned wallets as well. What are some other things that are on your roadmap that you guys are working on that maybe we'll see in the next couple months? What's something to kind of tease the listeners?
Cross-chain NFTs are something we're super excited about. It may not be as a source of volume because NFTs aren't going crazy right now, but it's just that break-in user experience, and we can see that go through to GameFi, for example. We're speaking with a bunch of game SDKs and game developers who the main thing they need from the blockchain is a user coming onto their app, buying an item, and then maybe selling the item and getting their money out. And if the game is on this blockchain, which a centralized exchange doesn't support, or a fiat on-ramp doesn't support, then it's very difficult for them to get users to onboard, because they get to the fiat on-ramp and then they onboard, and then they have to work out how to get gas, and they move across and chains. So we'll bring that all down into one click as well, where you'll be able to buy an in-game item using any token or using fiat. And
cool.
Yeah, it's a nice real use case, hopefully. We've got a nice feature where you'll be able to unstake and get any token. So Squid previously supported just onboarding into a staking app. So you could, if you had USDC, you could get ETH on Arbitrum and then stake it into a lending protocol. But you couldn't do it the other way. So that user experience, there was a bit of a disconnect. And we've just enabled it so you can unstake and then cross-chain swap. We've got the full suite of flows, gasless. That's going to be coming very soon. Super excited about that. And Bitcoin support, that's the goal for 2023. Just native Bitcoin to anything. I'm super excited by it.
Love it. A lot of alpha there. As you were talking about GameFi assets. I can't believe that I can't remember this or not, but does Squid offer fiat on-ramp, off-ramp directly through the widget or through the website that's available right now?
Not through the website or the widget, but we're implementing it. We've partnered with a project called Cardo. They're actually out of the Cosmos ecosystem, really cool team. They support EVM as well, though, and what they do is they support fiat on-ramping into one chain, and then they use Squid to get out to every token that we support. They can and they support as we add a chain, they get it for free. We can do payments for like fiat into a game, for example. And yeah, we'll be adding them into the front end as well. So, yeah, fiat's the biggest chain of all, right?
Yeah. I mean, everybody uses it every day, no matter how much of a Ponzi it seems like it really is.
The ultimate Ponzi. Yeah.
I want to ask one last kind of like big looking back question. You've been building Squid now since May 2022, year and a half. Looking back and the time that you've spent with Axelar and with your co-founders and your team and just building, what has been kind of like the biggest lesson learned or experience that you've taken away from building this simple one-click user experience for cross-chain transactions? And how has that shaped kind of your perspective looking forward?
I think the biggest thing I've learned is it's this difference between like thinking and doing. And over the last few years, just learning to really zero in on like what's important right now. Crypto moves so fast, and it's really hard to try and predict the future, and it's really fun to do that. Investors love to like build these huge theses and like understand these crazy systems, but the Axelar team have been really good at teaching me like how to just what do users really need like right now and just build that. And it means you've got to like keep your eye on the ball like and change pretty fast, but not getting caught up in these crazy plans. Just like keep shipping, like just look at the current state of the world and try to fit into it.
I love that. So if people want to keep up to date with you, or they want to keep up to date with Squid, or maybe even use Squid, what are the best avenues that we can send people to you or to your project?
Yeah, Twitter is great. So Squid is Squid Router, one word, and I'm ECDSAFU on Twitter, and then Discord. Jump in our Discord. We're all there, happy to chat. Yeah, reach out to me on Telegram if you want to. And then if you're a developer, we just reach out and we'll help. You can check out our docs as well, which is docs.squidrouter.com. And yeah, let's do it.
Fig, thanks for taking the time out of your busy and probably pretty fun schedule in Turkey right now. You're there for a conference, so it was an honor to chat with you. I really enjoyed the hour we just spent, and I hope more and more users find their way to Squid, because the one-click cross-chain solution you guys are providing is really something that is going to take our industry forward. Not just for users, but for everybody who wants to get interested into the crypto space in general. So I love the work you guys are doing. I appreciate the time you spent, and would love to have a catch-up call sometime down the road.
Yeah, sounds good. Thanks so much for having me on, Tal. It's been really nice to chat.